Esteemed guests, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Dear colleagues, we invited you here to take part in the press conference of the delegation of the Democratic Party of Kurdistan. Allow me to introduce members of the delegation. Head of the delegation is member of the Supreme Council of the Kurdistan Democratic Party, head of the Department for Foreign Relations, Hemin Hawrami, head of the Department for Asian Countries of the Kurdistan Democratic Party, Abdulsalam Abdullah, and representative of the Kurdistan Democratic Party in Russia and CS, Khoshavi Babakr. Having analyzed the situation in the regions, I will explain about the current situation and the region, and also the attitude towards extremist factions and organizations like Daesh and others. Series of rich in natural resources the region allows not only the expansion of the territory, but also ensures economic potential. So the participants of this event will also explain about the ends and goals and objectives of the negotiations that are already on the way in Moscow, and they will also speak about the current situation in Iraqi Kurdistan. What is their vision of the future of Kurdistan and Iraq? How did Iraqi Kurdistan take the formation of the Federation of in the northern part of Syria, announced by Syrian Kurds? What is the role of Turkey in the Middle East, and what, according to Kurdistan Democratic Party, should be taken to truly neutralize all Islamist terrorist factions? What is the role of Russia in the Middle East and in the world at large from the point of Iraqi Kurdistan, and the results or the fruits and potential of the negotiations that are taking place in Moscow now? So these are the questions to discuss. So now I pass the floor to the head of the delegation. The floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the RIA Novosti for allowing us to hold this press conference here. It's our pleasure to be back and to talk about very important points that's going on in Iraqi Kurdistan and in the Middle East. I would like to start by outlining the topics and the aim of this visit, and then I will open the floor for any questions you have, and I am ready to answer any kind of the question that you might have. The aim of this trip that we are here in Moscow this time is to participate, and we have participated at the party congress of the Just Russia party, because they have extended an invitation to President Barzani. We have participated for 2 days in their congress, and we held meetings with the leadership of the party. We held meetings also with the international delegations who were in this party congress. But also we had a very productive meeting with the United Russia, the ruling party here, to discuss the bilateral relationship between Kurdistan Democratic Party and the ruling party here in Russia, to talk about how it's important for both parties to continue their relationship, party-to-party relationship, and also to use this party-to-party relationship for the government-to-government relationship, and to better coordinate on the issues that it's in the interest of Russia and it's in the interest of Kurdistan region of the peace and stability in the Middle East. And we agreed on continuing exchanging delegations to boost and strengthen the bilateral relationship between Kurdistan Democratic Party and the United Russia as the ruling party here in Russia. We in Iraqi Kurdistan generally and in the KDP, we highly value the relationship with Russia. Russia is a very, very important country for us, and it ties Kurdistan with Russia. The ties between Kurdistan and Russia has many layers. One of the layers is the historical relationship between Russia and Kurdistan region, and especially the historical relationship between Russia and the Kurdistan Democratic Party under the leadership of late Mustafa Barzani and now under the leadership of President Masoud Barzani. So for us, the Russian policy, the Russian diplomacy, the common values, common interest between Kurdistan region and Russia is highly valued by Kurdistan Democratic Party, by President Barzani, and we deem it very, very necessary to strengthen day after day this relationship between Kurdistan region and Russia. The change, the quick change that is happening in Iraq, in Syria, in the Middle East requires a better coordination to exchange views, to pinpoint the common points between Russia and Kurdistan region on common issues. Russia is playing a very important role in the Middle East nowadays, and we deem it very necessary to have a better coordination between Kurdistan region and Russia in finding the common grounds to further develop the better understanding of the mutual interest that Kurdistan region and Russia has in the area. We believe that Kurdistan region and Russia now has two main common points. The number one is the fight against terrorism. The second one is the economic and the investment in Kurdistan region, especially in energy sector and the other sectors in Kurdistan. And also the third point, which is important, is both the Russians and Russia and Kurdistan region. We do believe that stability in the Middle East is important. Finding regional solution for the regional problems are very, very important. The outside players must play a constructive role in finding solution for the regional problems in the area. So in these three main areas, we have common understanding with Russia, and we have the readiness from Kurdistan region to deepen the discussions on each of these points that I've discussed. Here I would like to, on behalf of the leadership of Kurdistan Democratic Party, President Barzani, to express our thanks and gratitudes for the Russian government for their support, military support for Iraqi Kurdistan region in our fight against the Islamic State terrorist group. We have received some shipments from Russia, and we are expecting some new shipments of the arms and ammunition in May. But here I would like to say, because of the historical relationship between Kurdistan region and Russia, because of the deep understanding of the mutual interest, because of the common interest of fighting terrorists, we are expecting more from Russia. So that's why we thank Russia for what they have done for Kurdistan, but it's not enough. We are expecting more support, more military support for Peshmerga, direct military support for Peshmerga, training Peshmergas for fighting terrorists and eradicating this threat that is threatening all of us. In the terms of fighting terrorism, we are very proud to report to you that the Peshmergas, the fighting force of Kurds, managed to defeat and to break the myth of ISIS. Before the fight of the Peshmergas, ISIS was looked at that they are not defeatable. But Peshmergas proved that ISIS are defeatable. And now I can tell you that with the sacrifices of the Peshmergas, we have managed to clear and to recontrol 27,200 square kilometers from ISIS. Denying ISIS terrorist organization with territory, recontrolling the areas that they have control, it's a big blow for this terrorist organization. And that's why the Kurdistan region strategy has been to clear, hold, and to defeat ISIS. We have lost 1,604 Peshmergas in this fight against ISIS, and more than 400 of them were our senior commanders that they died in the battlefield leading the Peshmerga forces. According to the information that our Peshmerga forces they have, and also the information that the other coalition partners they have, ISIS has lost 24,000 terrorists in their fight against the Peshmerga forces. Out of this 24,000 terrorists, in the last 2 years, that they were killed in the fight by the Peshmerga forces in a coordination with the coalition. At least 2,000 of these terrorists were those terrorists who came from Caucasia. So imagine if these terrorists were not killed by Peshmergas and they returned to Russia, what kind of the security threat they would have posed for the Russian national security. So that's why it's very vital for Kurdistan and Russia to develop their security coordination, to develop their military coordination, to develop their political coordination, because Kurdistan region has a strategy in this fighting terrorism. They tell me to slow it down. Okay. Well, because we in the fight against ISIS, the Islamic State terrorist organization, we have a strategy. We support any force that fights against ISIS, wherever and however we can support, we will support any force anywhere in the world, any country to fight against ISIS. But also we welcome and receive any support from any country, from anyone to help us in our fight against ISIS. Because we do believe that the top priority for the regional countries, for the regional players, for the international community must be fighting terrorism. This must be the top priority. And based on our experience, none of the countries in the Middle East, none of the countries in the world are immune of terrorist threats. That's why terrorism and fighting ISIS should not be looked at as an opportunity for geopolitical gains or for proxy wars between and among the states in the area. Because ISIS is a common threat for all of us. For us in Iraqi Kurdistan region, we do believe that ISIS is the beginning of the end of ISIS has started, especially when Peshmerga managed to control back 27,000 square kilometers from ISIS. And since last May, ISIS has not been capable of launching massive operations against Peshmerga. There are some fighting here and there, but massive military operation, ISIS has lost that capabilities. But that doesn't mean that this is the end of ISIS. We do believe that by re-controlling back Mosul, the capital of the Caliphate of ISIS, this is the end of ISIS as a terrorist state organization. But that doesn't mean that in post-Mosul, ISIS will be vanished forever. ISIS will stay as a terrorist organization, but by re-controlling Mosul, ISIS will lose Mosul as the capital. But ladies and gentlemen, the fight of Mosul is not an easy fight. Mosul is not Tikrit. Mosul is not Ramadi. Mosul is not Palmyra. Mosul is not Aleppo. Mosul is a diverse city. Mosul has different ethnic groups, has different religious groups, has different sects within different religious groups in Mosul. So that's why before military operation in Mosul, we must have a political agreement for after ISIS Mosul, how it is going to be governed, and what are the forces that they fight for liberating Mosul. So unfortunately, up to this moment, there is no big plan for liberating Mosul because there is no agreement for the forces to liberate Mosul. We do believe that there must be an agreement between the Shiite force, the Sunni force, the Iraqi army, the Peshmerga force, and the coalition to do the Mosul operation. But up to this moment, we don't have that political agreement. We are working on it. We as the Kurds, we have been ready for a long time, and Peshmerga forces can be ready in a week. But up to this moment, neither the Iraqi army, nor the Shiite forces, nor the Sunni forces are ready for the Mosul operation. Here I would like to outline a very important line. We are against any external intervention in the Iraqi affairs, without any exception. Even many times we have asked the Iraqi government to issue a joint statement condemning any external intervention, whether it's Iranian intervention, whether it's Turkish intervention, whether it is any intervention in the Iraqi affairs. But the other side, unfortunately, they have not agreed to issue a joint statement to condemn every external intervention in the Iraqi affairs. So we in Iraqi Kurdistan, I would like to say that We will continue in our fight against ISIS. We will support any effort, but for the Mosul operation, we will not be the major force for entering Mosul, because it's a very sensitive area, and the Sunni forces with the Iraqi army, they must be the one to take the lead, to take the fight into Mosul, but we will play a very supportive role to help any force that wants to go to Mosul. The other issue, ladies and gentlemen, that we have the relationship between Kurdistan region and Baghdad and the political process in Baghdad. Here I would like to be very, very frank with you. We in Iraqi Kurdistan region, we came to a conclusion that we have been in two different stages with Baghdad. The first one starts from 1920 to 2003, and the second one starts from 2003 up to this moment. From the early stage, the Kurds supposed to be a major component of the Iraqi state. We were supposed to be partners in the Iraqi state. But what was our share? What was our share in this Iraq? I myself, I am from Halabja town that was chemically bombarded. So chemical bombardment was our share. Anfal campaign was our share. Genocide was our share. Killing 12,000 young Kurdi fails were our share. The genocide of 8,000 male Barzanis, aged from 12 to 70 years old, that was our share. Destruction of 4,500 villages out of 5,000 villages, that was our share from this Iraq that was mainly ruled by the Sunnis from 1920 to 2003. After 2003, we hoped that Iraq will be a different Iraq. We had 5 principles for being with this Iraq. One was constitution, second was partnership, sharaka, the third one was federalism, the fourth one balanced representation, and the fifth one was tawafuq, consensus in Iraq. But unfortunately, what we have seen again from this new Iraq after 2003, there is no commitment for the constitution. I don't want to go to the details, but I can tell you tens of articles within the constitution that they were not implemented. There is no partnership anymore in Iraq. Federalism failed in Iraq, because still the central mentality is very powerful in Baghdad. There is no balance in representation and power sharing in Iraq. Imagine out of 6,000 positions within the Iraqi state, there should have been a balanced representation of the Kurds, the Sunnis, and the Shiites. 80% of these 6,000 positions within the Iraqi states are for the other components of the Iraqis. The Kurds, we have only 2 to 3% of all of these Iraqi positions of the Iraqi state. So it means there is no balance. In the Iraqi army, for example, when Iraq built a new army in 2004, we as the Kurds, we were 24% of the Iraqi army. Unfortunately, right now, we are only 1% of the Iraqi army. Systematically, they have managed to succeed in driving Kurds out of the Iraqi army. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this is very sad to report to you. ISIS is the symptom of what is going on in Iraq. Iraq is engulfed with major political, social, security problem and governance problem in Iraq. The sectarian conflict between the Shiites and the Sunnis is deteriorating day after day. And there are not that much lights in the end of this tunnel that we are in it. So we as the Kurds, Iraqi Kurdistan region, and President Barzani, we made this decision that we will not be part of any sectarian conflict in Baghdad. We will be part of any positive solutions for the political crisis in Baghdad. For example, recently in this confidence vote against Prime Minister or the Speaker of Parliament, we as the Kurds, we stood neutral because it's not our job. We are not part of that problem in Baghdad, and that's why, ladies and gentlemen, Baghdad does not only have this problem, but since February 2014, they have cut the budget of Kurdistan region. From 1920 to 2003, with all the problems with all the oppressions from Baghdad governments, they have not cut the budget of Kurdistan. But the current government that we're supposed to be partners, they cut the budget of Kurdistan from February 2014 up to this moment. So federalism in Iraq has failed. From 1920 to 2003, dictatorship also failed. So we have to find a new formula for our relationship with Baghdad. In this new formula, that's why we have made this decision to discuss, to negotiate with Baghdad in a peaceful way, in a consensus way, in dialogue, to have a new formula for the relationship between Kurdistan and Baghdad. How this relationship is going to be, including even an independent Iraqi Kurdistan region. But we don't want to use violence. We don't want to use without mutual understanding. Baghdad will be the first area to discuss and to negotiate about the terms of this new formula. Then, after our agreement with Baghdad, we are going to hold a referendum to ask the Kurdistan people what they want. But again, Kurdistan proved that it's a source of stability for the regional equation. It's a source of stability for the religious pluralism in Iraq and the other areas. And Kurdistan will play a very important role, not on Iraqi Kurdistan, but also, if you look at the Syrian case, if you look at the peace process in Turkey, if you look at the fighting terrorism, if you look at the regional balance, Iraqi Kurdistan region is an active player. So that's why we in Iraqi Kurdistan region, this is the future plan that we have into dealing with the new formula that we have. On the Syrian case, ladies and gentlemen, from the beginning of the fightings in Syria and the civil wars in Syria, whatever the name they have, it's uprising, civil war or whatever, our policy has been consistent. We do believe that neither the opposition nor the regime in Syria, they cannot solve the Syrian problem through military means. Neither the regime can take back Syria into what it was in February 2011, nor the opposition can take control of Damascus and remove the government and to establish a new government through military means. So that was the scenario that from the beginning we have been helping and hoping that all the fighting partners of the fighting actors to find a space to dialogue. That's why we have supported Geneva I, Geneva II, Geneva III negotiations, and our aim was to host the Syrian refugees. Right now, out of 254,000 Syrian refugees in Iraq, 247,000 of them are in Iraqi Kurdistan region. And we have tried our best to support the Kurds in Syria to unify their position, and we told them we don't want to copy-paste what we have into the Syrian case. But recently, with the issue of federalism, we have publicly stated that we support federalism and federal solution as a channel of finding solution for the Syrian case within the territorial integrity of Syria. With the relationship with the, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, there is a polarization. There are different polars in the Middle East right now. And some polars are Sunni polars, some polars are Shiite polars, some polars are led by the United States, some polars are led by the Iran, some polars are led by Russians. There are a lot of different polarization in the Middle East going on. Iraqi Kurdistan's position is that we will not be part of any polar against the other polar. We are not part of anyone's agenda against the other agenda. We have the Kurdistani agenda, and the Kurdistani agenda, we want to have a balanced relationship with the other polars. We want to be part of the solutions. We will not allow anyone, and we have proved that we are not allowing anyone to use Iraqi Kurdistan region as a launching pad against the other polars. Kurdistan region has a neutral policy, but again, in counter-terrorism, in the fight against ISIS, definitely we are part of those coalition, anyone who wants to fight against terrorism. This is the top priority for us because it's an existential threat for Kurdistan region. So ladies and gentlemen, we look at the, once again, just to sum it up what I have just said, we look very importantly into the role that Russia is playing. We are expecting more from Russia to support Iraqi Kurdistan region. There has been other delegation here in Moscow, delegation from the KRG, delegation from the other parties. We will continue in boosting the relationship, and also we have heard really very positive feedbacks from the meetings that they were held here, and the relationship will continue, and we look forward for a better relationship. Thank you very much.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hawrami. If are there any others who would like to add or to contribute to the discussion, then we will give the floor to our journalists. Mr. Hawrami, thank you very much for... Please introduce yourself. Murasadjuev. I'm an anchor from the website Kurdistan.ru. Thank you very much for this very comprehensive overview. And my question, well, actually I have two questions. One is very brief. It is on the recent visit of the party delegate of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, headed by Marham Saleh. So my question is on, not on the visit per se, but on whether the aims were and the subject of negotiations was agreed with Marham Saleh. It was how it was negotiated and presented during the negotiations with Minister Lavrov and Mr. Bogdanov. Has Mr. Saleh coordinated the subject of the negotiations with the Supreme Soviet of Kurdistan and with the President? If not, then would you explain to us, if that is possible, what was the objective of that meeting? Did you ask questions to Mohammed Saleh himself, and following the diplomatic channels of the Russian Federation? And my other question is on the southern Kurdistan. Do you think that time may have come, or put it differently, in your opinion, the international community under the leadership of the United States and Russia, how long will they oppose the principle of sovereignty of borders and territorial integrity and this is something that is not applicable to the situation in Iraq or in Syria, to the principle that is a more ethical one to my mind. I mean the principle of self-determination of nations. I believe that currently there is no other way but to pursue the line of self-determination of nations and follow the expression of their will. That is the way to destroy terrorism. That is the way to establish peace and security in the region and to initiate peaceful coexistence and neighborhood. I don't see any other way out, and I would like to hear about your point of view on this. And my last question or comment is this. There are some global players and internal players in southern Kurdistan. Well, that's on the independence of southern Kurdistan. Maybe time has come not to take to launch a referendum without taking all these players into account, and just present the results to the Security Council and to UN and to Baghdad itself about the choice of people of Kurdistan that was made. I listened to what you said, and I saw that it is not possible to speak with Baghdad about the future, about the prospect. The only way to speak with Baghdad is about something that has happened de facto. Yes, please.
Thank you. For the visit of the delegation by my friend Barham, they came as the political party, so it was not an official diplomatic delegation from Iraqi Kurdistan region. As the parties, they are entitled to express their views, but the official visit that represent the official position of Kurdistan region, definitely it will be a delegation by the Kurdistan regional government, and that will bring the official messages from the President Masoud Barzani. But again, any of the topics that was discussed, these are common topics, and that we in Iraqi Kurdistan, despite of some internal differences, we agree on many strategic national issues, especially the future of Iraqi Kurdistan, the issue of the referendum, the relationship with Baghdad, the top priority of fighting terrorism. With different colors of different political parties in Kurdistan, no one disagree on these top national priorities that we have. Concerning the second question, denying the reality on the ground will not help in solving those problems on the ground. Iraq, I am talking very frankly, Iraq right now practically is a divided country. By denying this, it's not going to solve the issues. Iraq right now has three main components. One is Iraqi Kurdistan region. The other one in the Sunni areas, the majority is under the control of the Islamic State terrorist organization, and the other parts are in the control of the Iraqi government. So the Sunni community in Iraq, they have lost their territory, they have lost their economy, the social cohesion in the Sunni areas is under threat. The recent statistic that we have, 53% of the Sunni children, they don't have access to school. In the recent Ramadi operation, 258 schools were completely destroyed. So it means that even if today ISIS problem is gone, it doesn't mean that the problems of Iraq are gone too. The problems will continue. So that's why we have to find a formula. And that formula is through negotiation, through peaceful way, through understanding, to find a way to have this new formula for Kurdistan, for the Sunni areas, and for the Shia areas. Because to be very frank again, Iraq failed to accept Kurdistan as partners. We will not accept to be the subordinate of this people in Baghdad. So that's why we have to have a new formula. So the international community, they have to weigh in whether the continuing of this instability in Iraq, because since 2003, have you heard about any developments in Iraq? Have you heard about any stability in Iraq? Has Iraq played a positive role in the regional security? Has Iraq played a very important role in the economic boom in the Middle East? So we have to find solution for this. If we can't be peacefully together, we can be peacefully neighbors together, and we can be together to fulfill each other's requirements. So that's why we do hope that the international community, that the main players, to really understand the realities on the ground, and to come out of the box that one Iraq policy, staying to this one Iraq policy is exacerbating, is making the problems go forever. But we have to look at the, as we say, contingency planning, about the future plans, how to deal with that situation. And right now it's happening. It's happening in Iraq. Nobody can prevent, nobody can glue back Iraq together once again. If the efforts will be only again to glue back again Iraq, it will take another 10 years without reaching any other new results, because the socio-economic components of the problem in Iraq is deeper than solving the ISIS threat or another terrorist organization. So that's why it's better for the international community in their planning to weigh in whether they want stability or not. If they want stability, the current affairs is not going to help the stability in the area. They want to defeat terrorism. Okay, for example, why ISIS managed to control the Sunni areas? This is a big question. Why ISIS, for example, right now in Iraq and Syria, they control 7 million Sunnis? Because the Sunnis, they don't have any other alternative. Fighting ISIS through militias from the other sect is supporting ISIS' story that they are the true representative, that they bring dignity for the Sunni people. So it doesn't mean, I don't mean that all the Sunnis are supporting ISIS, but lack of alternative made the Sunnis that they don't have any other option. So that's why we have to give them other option. And other option is that first to defeat ISIS, liberate their areas, and give them self-determination as well, that the Sunnis should rule their own areas, because it's a common responsibility. For the issue of the self-determination, I think denying the Kurdistan self-determination, it's a natural right, it's a God-given right. So if we exercise this right in a democratic way, in a peaceful way, that will add to the stability in the area, that will make Kurdistan an active partner for the international community, for the regional equations, for the regional stability, for the regional security. Just tell me the logic why Kurdistan should not exercise this right. And here I would like to highlight a very important point. When we are talking about the referendum for Iraqi Kurdistan, it is only for Iraqi Kurdistan. It has nothing to do with Rojava. It has nothing to do with the Kurdistan in Turkey. It has nothing to do with the Kurds in Iran, because these three parts, they have their own context, they have their own politics, they have their own movements, and we respect that, and we are not copy-pasting that. Even if Iraqi Kurdistan be an independent, again, this has nothing to do with the other parts of Kurdistan. For the third question that you asked, if I understood it very well, yes, we have different players internally in Iraqi Kurdistan region, but once again I will reiterate this point on referendum issue. On the future of Kurdistan, we have no that much differences. This is a very good news for all of us, that if we are politically different on some issues, but in negotiation with Baghdad, in dealing, for example, recently, with that political crisis in Baghdad, the Kurdish bloc, 65 members in parliament, we were fighting before that on many domestic issues. But when it came to the Kurdish representation, the Kurdish issue in Baghdad, they all became like a solid stone. And everybody envies the Kurdish unity in Baghdad, because we were the only united bloc in fighting back those political crises there. So that's the example that Kurds, if we are different on some other issues, we are united when it comes to the self-determination, to the referendum, and to the future of Kurdistan.
They conducted a referendum just to make the international community to react.
So why not launch a referendum? Why not convene a referendum? That high time for that. Otherwise, you will not be able to persuade the civilized international community to respond to the situation in Iraqi Kurdistan.
First of all, we didn't say that we are holding referendum, but before holding referendum, we have to talk to Baghdad. There is a decision to send a high-level delegation from Iraqi Kurdistan region that will represent all political parties, all ethnic groups in Kurdistan, Turkmens, Assyrians, all the religious groups in Kurdistan, like the Kurdistani people, because it's very important to say, the future state of Iraqi Kurdistan, it's not only for the Kurds. It's not a nation state only for the Kurds. No. It's a state for all citizens. It will be a secular, liberal, democratic country for all the citizens who are in Iraqi Kurdistan. So after this delegation goes to Baghdad, we will negotiate with the Iraqi government, with the Iraqi political parties, with the Shiite marja'iyas in Baghdad, with the Sunni representative in Baghdad about the future terms of relation between, because again, we don't want to have like a South Korea, North Korea model. We want to have a Czechs and Slovaks model in Iraq, to go in a peaceful way. But even after that, There will be no border between us and Baghdad. There will be common economy, common defense, common security. The same thing that we have. We just divide the sovereignty of Iraq for two states to be good neighbor with each other. So that's the plan. And after this delegation comes back, if we think that we need referendum, we will do referendum. But maybe through negotiation we reach an agreement, and that means that when we reach an agreement we don't need any referendum in the country. But definitely about the nature of the state, about the constitution of it, about the decision, a referendum is needed, and the referendum will be in all of Iraqi Kurdistan region, including Kirkuk and the newly liberated areas.
Еще вопросы, пожалуйста.
Some other questions? You're welcome. Please introduce yourself. Hemin David, a Syrian patriotic movement in Russia. On the 13th of April 2016, the parliament in Verbel, there was a meeting convened in front of the parliament in Verbel. If you know about this meeting, can you say a couple of words about that? Why it was convened and why many people who wanted to participate in it saw that the routes were blocked by police and not many people were allowed to get there?
For the question. No, I am aware about that. On the daily basis we have things like that. It's a democratic country. Just to tell you, last year we had 276 gatherings like that, and the police will treat all of them equally. We are very proud of multiculturalism in Kurdistan. Out of 350,000 Christians in all of Iraq, right now only in Iraqi Kurdistan we have 335,000 of them. So it means something. It means that the Christians, the Assyrians, and all the other components, the only stable and secure place in all of Iraq to live is in Iraqi Kurdistan region. Definitely there are some different opinions, political opinions, even within the Assyrians, even within the Kurds. We have a strong opposition in Iraqi Kurdistan who are strong opposition, Kurdish opposition, but we are very proud. As, for example, my party, KDP, Kurdistan Democratic Party, it's a multi-religious party. We have an Assyrian guy who is member of our Politburo. The governor of Erbil was an Assyrian guy who was assassinated by the radical Islam. We are very proud of that root of our multi-religious roots in Kurdistan region. We have recently, our Ministry of Peshmerga are the Kurdish fighters, established 2 battalions for the Assyrians and for the Christians to be part of holding and fighting the Nainoa plain, which is the Assyrian and the Christian area. So with this minors of the gatherings that we have it on the daily basis, it's going to change nothing of our strategic relations with the Assyrian and our respect that they are true citizens and true patriots of the areas, that we are proud of that relationship with them.
Пожалуйста.
Azam David, journalist. When I was invited to participate in this conference, I definitely knew what question I will ask, and then I decided, why should I ask the question, be or not to be? I know that the answer is to be, but so my question will be about something different, about the events that happened quite recently around the conflicts that happened in Syrian Kurdistan in Kamishli, when as soon as those conflicts between Kurds and the fighters, be that from the governmental forces, happened, victims were reported, many casualties and wounded even among civilians. And immediately Kurdistan president said that the medical system of Kurdistan is ready to take care of these people. And we all said, oh, thank God that's possible. We take information from the TV channel. So what I saw on the Bud checkpoint, I don't remember the name of that point, on the one border, on the one side there was ambulance, and on the other side there were young people with some metal devices that did not allow anyone to pass. So that was the pictures that I saw. Ambulance with wounded people came to the border checkpoints and they were not let through. What I wanted to speak about, not about the provocative provocations. What is important for me is that whether people are aware in Kurdistan that these provocations that become more and more frequent on that other side are harmful to our people. Why things are not clear enough explained to Kurds. So the Kurds' mentality is organized in such a way that they believe all the bluffs that is poured on them. It was said that it was not Kurdistan that sent to Erbil, that was or some other places are closed because Kurdistan do not want to welcome them or help them. Well, just what we want is for you to explain more to raise people's awareness.
Yes, of course, people are in Kurdistan, they are aware of the problems that unfortunately our friends PYD are making on the border. It's called the Semalka border gate. They have closed the border gates because President Barzani ordered all the hospitals to be open for the wounded people of Qamishli. We condemned any attack on the Kurdish people in Syria. We have supported any kind of the solution for the Kurds in Syria. We are hosting, as I said, 245,000 of the Syrian Kurdish refugees in Iraqi Kurdistan region. When Kurds needed in Kobane, if it was not for the Peshmergas, Kobane would have been falling under the control of the ISIS terrorist organization. It's a national duty. And also many times we have supported PYD in their fight and the Yapaga in YPG inside Syria in their fight against ISIS terrorist organization. But unfortunately in this recent conflict inside Qamishli, which was just started between some of the Asaish of the YPG with some militiamen that they belong to a tribal leader of the Tay tribes inside Qamishli, that the regime armored people also supported that militia. But now we have reports that the situation calmed down in Qamishli. Again, the Kurdistan's position, we are not intervening in the Kurdish issue inside Syria. We have helped the first Erbil agreement, the second Erbil agreement, and the Duhok agreement, that all the Syrian Kurds to agree on 3 issues. One, to have one political like an umbrella conference for all the Syrian Kurds to use it, whether in their negotiation with the opposition, in their negotiation with the government in Syria, in Damascus, or whether to rule their own areas, to establish one military force for all the Syrian Kurds to fight terrorism together. But unfortunately here I'd like to report, up to this moment, the force that is blocking this unity of the Kurds, that is not allowing the other forces of the Syrian Kurds to go back to Rojava to fight terrorism, to protect their own areas, is our friends in the PYD. And here I would like to seize this opportunity. We have discussed this many times with them, that unity of the Kurds is the strength of the Kurds. So we are really concerned about the future of the Kurds in Syria, because in the negotiations, neither by the regime nor by the opposition, they don't have a clear vision what will be the future of the Kurds within Syria. Because of that security situation, most of the Kurds, they left their own areas, and now the Kurds are becoming a very minority inside Rojava in Syria. So this is the big concern that we have, and the Iraqi Kurdistan people, yes, they are very well aware about these behaviors of the YPG.
If you permit the situation with the wounded people, why the wounded people were not allowed to cross the border?
I'm not here on behalf of PYD, so the better question is to ask them. But again, we have opened all the gates We received orders from President to open all the hospitals. We have facilitated many humanitarian aid, many support into Rojava, in the camps, in the training of their people. So YPG and the PYD SIH, maybe they thought this is a political issue for some other issues. So really, I don't have any answer for that, but the question really YPG should answer why they have not allowed the civilian wounded people from the Qamishli skirmishes to come to Iraqi Kurdistan for the treatment.
В четвертом ряду дайте, пожалуйста.
Добрый день.
Please introduce yourself. Well, I would like to thank you for a very detailed overview of the situation. My question is, well, all the three parts, or actually four parts of Kurdistan, I mean in Turkey, in Syria, in Iraq, and in Iran, they are all developing at their own pace and in different directions, and that generates a lot of problem. Is there any understanding or vision how to regulate, to set, to coordinate the actions of all parts of Kurdistan so that Kurds in Syria, in Turkey, in Iraq and Iran do not interfere, do not interfere into the general course of Kurdistan, do not lead to nothing, because I think that that's what enemies of Kurdistan use to their advantage, because the state of all these four parts is very different. Well, one thing is in southern Kurdistan much has been achieved, and but the tasks that are set in Syria or in Turkey are quite different, and that causes a lot of discrepancies and various visions. Do you think it may become possible that at some foreseen future the actions and relations between the four parts can be coordinated with no friction? Please introduce yourself. I forgot to. Vadim Makarenko from Kurdistan.ru website.
Among those parts that you mentioned, Iraqi Kurdistan region is the only officially recognized federal region. So we are responsible for 6 million people. We have to respect international borders. We have to respect international law, and we have to respect the good relationship with the neighbors. And the other neighbors are states, Iran, Turkey, and Syria. So the top priority for us is the internal security of Iraqi Kurdistan region, establishing balanced relationship with the other neighboring countries, but not at the expense of the rights of the Kurds in that part of those countries that I mentioned. So since the early beginning of 1991, when the Iraqi Kurdistan became a semi-independent region, our policy has been to encourage a peaceful way for solving the Kurdish issue within the other countries, because the other countries, they have different context, they have different games to play in that area. But we do believe that from Iraqi Kurdistan region, the era of military confrontation for representing the Kurdish issue in those countries is over. Through military confrontation, nothing can be achieved. And also from the other state, the states that they are ruling the Kurds through military security solution is not going to solve the Kurdish issue in their own areas, in their own countries. So that's why our help for the Kurds in the other parts has been to support them to follow a peaceful political, diplomatic, media campaign to represent the Kurdish cause, to find through dialogue, and it has been fruitful. In Turkey, for example, we have two experiences. Since 1984, there has been a military campaign by Turkish state. There has been violence and military campaign by PKK. What they have achieved through violence, Turkey couldn't find any solution. PKK also couldn't find any solution. But by HDP participating in the parliamentary election last year in June, they won 80 seats in the parliament. So through this diplomatic and political, you can achieve more. So we are supporting that kind of the solution. We have refused as Iraqi Kurdistan region to be part of any military solution by these countries against their own Kurds. So yes, there is coordination between Iraqi Kurdistan region region, with the other Kurds in the other parts of the Kurdistan, in the other state, but we are not dictating their policy, what they should do, what they should not do, what formula they should follow, what formula should not follow. But again, we have helped them to prove to the Iranians, to the Turks, to the Iraqis, to the Syrians, to the others, that Kurds are not a threat to you. Kurds are asset. Kurds are an important component of your own country. If you recognize their national right, if you not deny their rights, your states, your countries will be stronger. But with the continuation of this violence, neither you will get in rest, nor the others will get some rest for the area. So that's why we, again, in Iraqi Kurdistan, we have encouraged all the political parties in Iran, in Turkey, in Syria to be united, to follow a peaceful way, to use diplomatic channels, to use political channels, and to exploit any kinds of the media campaign to raise awareness about their issue, and to use those channels to pressure the central governments to open the gates of dialogue with them. But we do believe that within this globalization, within this quick change of the equation in the Middle East, military campaign, neither by the state nor by these political parties will have any fruits. But again, I will retreat. What we have in Iraqi Kurdistan, it's for Iraqi Kurdistan region. The top priority is to establish, to make referendum only for Iraqi Kurdistan region. But for Syria, for example, recently we have publicly stated that we support federal solution within Syria for the Kurdistan in Rojava, for the Kurds in Syria. In Turkey, for example, we have supported the peace process. We have dialogue with PKK, we have dialogue with the Turkish state to bring them both together and to push forward the peace process and to stop the violence and military campaign, because we do believe that the peace process will be better for the Kurds and for security and the regional security that we have. The same for Iran.
I'm Nikolai Christopher from the Bulgarian radio station here in Moscow. Quite recently, President Obama spoke in favor of the federal nature of Iraq and addressed Iraqi president and also addressed president of Iraqi Kurdistan. What is your attitude to these appeals made by President Obama? Can there be some compromise between can their power in Kurdistan and Baghdad meet at some midterm? And third question is on the referendum, on preparation to a referendum in Kurdistan.
For the United States is playing a very important role in Iraq, because they have been out after 2003, and definitely they are in touch with the Iraqi states and with the other components of Iraq, and they have their own policy, and we have good relationship also with the United States, and we are coordinating in the fight against ISIS, because this is the main component of the coalition in the fight against ISIS. But for the US policy inside Iraq, again, there are some common issues and there are some different issues between us and the United States when it comes to the policies vis-a-vis the one Iraq policy and the issue of federalism in that area. But our policy, we have been saying, if the United States is not going to oppose the referendum, that's enough for us. So we do believe that it's very important even for the United States to understand the realities on the ground, that sticking to the old policies of one Iraq policy and to deny what is happening on the ground, it's not going to help neither the United States nor the Iraqis to find solution for the problems that we have in Iraq right now. But with that, we again appreciate all the support that the United States has given to Iraqi Kurdistan region in our fight against terrorism and against ISIS. For the referendum, in my briefing, you were not here, I said it in details, what is the plan that we have, but again, I will repeat it for you. For the referendum, the first important plan is that to send a high-level negotiation delegation from Iraqi Kurdistan region to go to Baghdad to discuss in details with the Iraqi state, with the Iraqi government officials, with the political parties in Iraq, with the Shiite marja'iyas, with the Sunni leadership about our perspective, to show them and to tell them and to meet and debate how dictatorship failed in Iraq and how federalism also friendly in Iraq, and what new formula we need to establish in that Iraq. So it depends on the result of that negotiation, which will be soon with Baghdad, but definitely right now, even if we send a delegation today, they should discuss with who in Baghdad, because the parliament is not working, and the prime minister has presented two different lists to reshuffle its own cabinets. So we have to negotiate with a well-established political institution, with the cabinet, with the parliament, with the president, and with the Shiite marja'iyas and Sunni marja'iyas in Baghdad. And but generally speaking, for the time frame, if nothing, God forbid, if nothing big happens in Iraq, the plan is to hold a referendum here in this 2016, and but it depends. If we reach an agreement with Baghdad, there might be no need for the referendum on the future of Kurdistan region.
Еще вопрос, пожалуйста.
Mosul. Yeah,
Yes, on Mosul. On Mosul.
Again, for Mosul operation, we have been ready since the beginning. If you look at the map of Mosul, there are 4 flanks of Mosul, 4 fronts. The northern front, the eastern front, and the western front, and the southern front of Mosul. Peshmergas are controlling the northern front, the western front, and the eastern front of Mosul. In the eastern side of Mosul and the northern side of Mosul, in some areas we are only 17 kilometers away from Mosul. So it means this is a big asset, big support for any Iraqi army units that they want to come from the south. And even in December, we agreed with the Iraqi army to bring 2 brigades, and they brought Brigade 72, Brigade 91 of the Iraqi Division 15 to Mahmur area. They supposed to clear one village, it's called Nasr village, in order to go to take Gayara bridge. But unfortunately, 4,000 Iraqi soldiers, 2 brigades, they have not been capable of taking one village in 3 months because of some political tensions that exist within this Iraqi army. But again, when Iraqi army will be ready to take the lead, because it must be Iraqi army to take the lead, not the Shiite Hashd al-Sha'bi militias, not the Sunni militias, not the Peshmerga forces. It must be Iraqi army with all the supports that we have. But this is my personal point of view. I hope, because Mosul is very important for Kurdistan, as long as ISIS, Islamic State organization, terrorists stay in Mosul, it means that the continuation of ISIS threat on Kurdistan region. So we do hope that one day sooner to remove ISIS from Mosul, it will be much more positive for Iraqi Kurdistan region. But based on our assessment of the fights previously and the assessment for the Iraqi army, I don't think by the end of 2016 there will be a Mosul liberated operation.
Здравствуйте, факультет мировой политики МГУ.
The Department of Global Policy in the university, Moscow State University. My question is on Ashanhal. What happened there with Yazidis, and what are the plans of integration of Yazidis in the Kurdish state? And the other question is more complex. Kurdistan state is a potential threat to Turkey, at least that's their perception, and reshuffling of forces, because that is a new state right in the middle of the Middle East. What are the possible forthcoming actions from Turkey if Kurdistan proclaims its sovereignty?
First of all, we say Yazidis are the original Kurds, the true Kurds, and the real Kurds. So Yazidis are not different from the Kurds. You know, we don't call them Yazidis and the Kurds. We say the Yazidi Kurds. And what happens to the Yazidis, it's the continuation of what happened to the Kurds. Like the Anfal campaign, chemical bombardment, the recent genocide in Sinjar and the other, it's part of the series. Yazidis, they have been prosecuted, they have been oppressed because they were Kurds first, and then because they were Yazidi second. So that's why there is no way to say that there will be no an independent Kurdistan without Yazidis in the Sinjar area. Definitely, that's for sure, and they are a very important component of our society, because they are ethnically they are Kurds, but religiously they have different religions, which is very, very unique in Kurdistan region. So definitely the plan is that The referendum, as I said, will be held in Sinjar, in the Azeri areas, in Kirkuk, in Khanaqin, in all that areas that we managed to liberate from ISIS and the other areas. For Kurdistan, whether it's a threat to Turkey or not, since 1991, Kurdistan proved, Iraqi Kurdistan, it's not a threat to Iran, it's not a threat to Turkey, it's not a threat to Syria, it's not a threat to Iraq. And it's not a threat to the regional order or the regional stability in the Middle East. Iraqi Kurdistan, it proved that it's an asset. It's a support area for the regional security. And when we established federalism in 1992, they have said the same. Oh, Kurdistan is a threat. We should not support this federalism. When we raised our flag, they said, oh, this is against the national security of the regional countries. It's a threat to Iran, to Turkey, to Syria. It was not a threat. When we had constitution in 2003, 2004 and 2005, they said, oh, Iraqi Kurdistan is a threat because it's now internationally recognized. But we proved that we are not a threat. And now when it comes to the regional security, to fight against terrorism, tell me what other forces, except for Peshmergas, managed to gain that much gain in the fight against ISIS? To measure the success, the security success against ISIS terrorist organization. So, for example, nobody like Peshmerga managed to assassinate and to kill more than 300 leaders of ISIS inside and outside of Mosul and the other areas. Just recently, last week, a Peshmerga unit, special unit, they flew 2 hours by helicopters into the deep of ISIS, into Hamam Ali, which is south of Mosul. They landed there, they made an ambush, they killed an ISIS leader, and they came back safely into Kurdistan region. So we will go after ISIS wherever they are, wherever. So it means that Kurdistan is an important asset. It's not a threat, neither to Turkey, and we do hope that this security mindset that the Kurds are a threat, if Kurdistan be an independent state, it will destabilize the situation. Have we destabilized the regional order in the last 25 years? Have we added for any instability? No. Just tell us, just give us a small example. We have been an asset, for example, with Turkey. When it comes to the relationship with Turkey, geography speaks louder than anything else. For our pipelines, we don't have any other gate. It's only through Turkey to reach to the Mediterranean Sea for the international market for our oil. So Kurdistan is a big, massive economic asset for the regional business development as well. Economist magazine, they did a report about benchmarking Kurdistan in 2013. In terms of business environment index, Iraqi Kurdistan was ranking 56 out of 87 countries in the world. We are only behind one point behind Croatia. We are ahead of Indonesia in terms of the business environment. So it means that Kurdistan region is a positive partner, and it's not going to not only threat the others, but it was going to have a better neighbor relationship. For what will be the reaction? Again, we do hope that the regional countries understand, comprehend that this is happening, and nobody can prevent that from happening. Kurdistan region it's on the way. It's natural right through a peaceful way. We haven't said, okay, we use Peshmerga forces to get independence from Iraq through military confrontation. No. We said we will send a negotiation team to Baghdad. Even if the negotiation takes 1 year, we don't care. We will continue on that. Even in post-independence, Kurdistan is going to be a positive partner. And it's just an exercise, a democratic, peaceful exercise of our right. Why these countries support self-determination right for South Sudan? Why everybody is supporting a British referendum whether to stay within the European Union or not? It's a self-determination right for the Brits to decide. Okay, when it comes for the same right that the Kurds should exercise, what's this double standard? Why the Kurds should not have that right? Are the Kurds less than any other of the nation in the areas? Why we should not have a state? Is it a crime that the Kurds should have a state in the area? We have been the victims of 100 years of Sykes-Picot. The Sykes-Picot is over. The Middle East that Sykes-Picot brought is over. Look at the borders between Iraq and Syria. Where are the borders? Look at the borders between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Where are the states? Where is the state in Libya? Where is the state in Yemen? Where is the state in Syria? Where is the state in Baghdad? We have failed states in the area because the states didn't have the legitimacy of the people. So we want to have reshaping the area based on peace in order to prevent the continuous instability in the region.
Еще вопрос болгарскому радио.
The question to the Bulgarian, from the representative of the Bulgarian radio. Are there any plans of launching an international tour after the referendum? For instance, a visit to be paid to Moscow or to Brussels or to Washington to seek support after the proclamation of independence in case of referendum. And another question, how should we perceive the positive relationship between Saudi state and the Kurdistan leadership? How that should be perceived by us?
The first and the most important capital to discuss this with is Baghdad. Definitely, we will first start with Baghdad, and it will be with Baghdad, but we will explain it to Ankara, to Tehran, if possible to Damascus, and then to Moscow, to Washington, to Brussels, to Paris, and to everywhere within the Arab countries, definitely. But before that, what we ask all of you and the international community, especially the big names like Russia, United States, European Union, and the regional countries, to support institution buildings in Kurdistan. We have 38 diplomatic corps in Erbil right now. Recognizing Kurdistan is important, but recognizing and building it as an institution, because we want to be a positive partner. We want to add to the functioning states in the Middle East. We don't want to add to the failed states in the Middle East, because that will exacerbate the situation. And yes, definitely we will discuss this in details with all of the capitals that you mentioned, and because again, it's from now on, even we require and we ask the United Nations. Recently, when Ban Ki-moon was in Kurdistan, our leadership asked the United Nations to supervise the referendum if we decide the referendum. We want the international observers to be there. We want every single country through their consul generals to send observers and to help to find out the genuinity of the referendum and the legitimacy of the referendum that is needed. For the relationship with Saudi Arabia, again, we as the Kurds, we don't have any sectarian problem. We are not part of any front, any bloc against Saudi Arabia, and we will not be part of Saudi Arabia's bloc against the Iranian bloc or the Syrian bloc or the Shia blocs or the others. We have the Kurdistani agenda. Our top priority is fighting ISIS and bring stability and referendum for Kurdistan. So the relationship between us, any of the countries in the area, will be measured in their understanding and support and close relationship on these issues that I mentioned. But with that, we have very strong relationship with Saudi Arabia. Recently, they opened a very important consul general inside Erbil. President Barzani recently was in Riyadh, and he was received, the way of the reception of that the Saudis did for President Barzani. They have done it only for 2 other presidents in the world so far.
Пожалуйста.
Microphone.
A nation has 14 million people population but doesn't have a status. As a Kurdish civil, I'm supported my president dear Masoud Barzani to declare it independent to do referendum. My question is, why we have to say that Iraq Kurdistan region? But Baghdad did everything against from Kurdistan to cut down the budget, did everything from the Kurdish people without any helpers. Other question is the Peshmerga fighting with the most dangerous group organization in all of the world. But when a states want to help with Kurdistan, everything have to be returned back from the Baghdad. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. We are realistic people, and in politics we have to stick to what we have so far. Still, Iraqi Kurdistan is a federal region within Iraq, so the official name is Iraqi Kurdistan region. And that's one of the problems that we have. Yes, in the fight against ISIS, many of the support that we were promised to be sent, Baghdad didn't allow to have this direct support to Erbil. So that's why we have this concern with Baghdad. For your information, in all the war against ISIS, Baghdad only supported with 800 AK-47 Kalashnikov for the Peshmergas. That's it. So yes, one of the concerns that we have, that we want, if Iraqi Kurdistan was an independent state, we could have defeated ISIS much more quickly and much more strongly, and we could have helped Russia, the regional countries, the international community in a stronger way to defeat ISIS, not only in Kurdistan, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Libya, anywhere else. We could have been part of an international broader coalition to send Peshmergas, because Peshmergas are, right now, they are very, very experienced in the fight against ISIS. So yes, that's why we said, unfortunately, we wish that Baghdad, we are realistic people. We are not illusionists, okay, to say, okay, we had a very nice dream tonight and let's have an independent because we had a dream. No. We hope that a federal, constitutional, democratic, pluralistic Iraq that's based on consensus. We know that an Iraqi Kurdistan region, a federal region, within that kind of Iraq would have been much more stronger than a landlocked independent state of Iraqi Kurdistan. But unfortunately, that what we hoped for 12 years, for 13 years, is gone. Iraq is no longer a federal, constitutional, democratic country that's based on the partnership and on the balance. That's why we say we have to have a new formula with this Iraq. Because when ISIS attacked Kurdistan, why ISIS managed to take some part of Kurdistan? Because of the failure of the Iraqi army. And when they attacked Kurdistan, we asked the Iraqi government to defend us. What they have done? Nothing. Nothing. Even when the international community want to send arms to Kurdistan, Baghdad was saying everything must come to Baghdad for custom check, to see the manifest and the component of the shipments, then it must go to Erbil. Even we asked, okay, instead of all of these shipments come to Baghdad, stay for 2-3 days there, send your team to be in Erbil airport to check every shipment. They refused. So as long as we are before the referendum, we will stay with these names, but definitely after the referendum, it will be up to the Kurdish people to decide which name they will name the new state in the area.
Это был наш последний вопрос.
That was the last question that we had, and on behalf of all those present here, we'd like to thank our guests for this very interesting press conference. Our guests were here not for the first time, and I hope that was not the last time that we met. Thank you very much.